these have been cured for about a little over 2 days now. So now we got to start the process of go ahead and peeling all the tuck tape off and go ahead and get these flattened down one last time, and then we can get them jointed. All right, so yes, you did see that it was actually kind of, heating up the glue and it was sticking to itself. Amazingly enough though, it starts sticking to itself more than it sticks to this. I mean, there's some on here, but you can see how it was still ripping it off, and then it takes it all the way down. Once you get there, you start sanding it again. So it doesn't look good, and it slings the crap all over everything, but it throws enough sawdust on there that it's not that sticky anymore. So I think that's the way to do it. All right, so I've got all the boards done. Kind of show you, this one pad did all 6 boards. You can see I'm just now finally getting a pretty good buildup on it. But I was able to knock out all 6 boards. The key to it is do not try to go a whole lot real fast. You just do real slow and just kind of bump in and out, in and out, in and out, hitting it, the tape as you go, and just do a little at a time. If you try to do a whole bunch, you're going to end up killing the motor in this thing. So you want to keep your RPMs up and just kind of lightly hit it back and forth, and it does a pretty good job. I will tell you this, it makes an absolute mess on the floor. So luckily this stuff's kind of mixed with sawdust, and so it's not very sticky. So we're going to go and sweep that up before the sun warms it up. All right, so I've got these laid out, and you can see some of these edges didn't get filled in from the side, or from the top, I should say, when I did it. So we're going to go ahead and tape off these sides. I'm going to use a 45-minute epoxy on the sides here, so this gets done today. That way I can go ahead and finish, hopefully trying to get these ready and join them tomorrow, maybe. All right, change of plans a little bit. Some of these cracks are, like this one here is going to be either the top or the bottom, so it's going to be exposed. But some of these cracks are really, really deep. So that thicker 45-minute epoxy is probably not going to go down fast enough. So I'm going to go ahead and use the same epoxy I used before. It may just take a little bit longer for it to cure. You can see how it's running down in those holes pretty quick. So this makes it to where I know for sure I get it all the way down in there and it's one solid piece. Uh-oh. Well, that ain't good. So yeah, we got a problem here. These cracks run all the way through. Now this is a difficult thing to stop from happening, because obviously the epoxy is going to stop the tape from sticking to it. So you got to find a spot that is not covered by epoxy to try to create a seal. So what I do is I don't push down on top of where it's at. I push down around the outside of it. Obviously, it will keep going through here. So what you've got to do is you got to make it past all of that. We're going to go up underneath it Fact is that it drips straight down, so it's dry up underneath here. So we'll take this and tape it all the way back. Now I got this little spot here, it's kind of a gap that's going to get to it, so we're going to go ahead and tape this whole thing off. Because the odds are it's probably going to come in here and try to fill up that little void that's right there. All right, let's hope we don't have any more of those. Oops. Good one, Kenneth. Pushed it right out the top, like an idiot. All right. Hopefully, that'll keep it from leaking too bad. Let's find out. Yeah, that looks like that's holding. Let's keep going. All right, so I've got all this is cured that I poured on the edges here. So what we're going to do, instead of running this back through the planer, I'm going to sand this down because I've already planed this pretty good. Once I get it all put together, I'm going to have to do the final flattening later on. So what we're going to do is we're just going to use the 7-inch disc and go through and get all of the epoxy off this thing, get it flattened off pretty good all the way around. And then on this particular board, I've got to come back around and I've got to do this edge here because there's still some spots on this side. Alright, so normally when I go to put all these together, I would put all of them together and clamp it all as one. I'm not going to be able to do that on this project because these boards are so hard that if I do more than 2 at a time, I'm not going to be able to take out all of the gap by squeezing them together because my clamps are not going to be strong enough. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically end up doing one board at a time. To get them on there to make sure that they're nice and flush up against here and they glue up really well. I think it's going to be the best option. It's going to take longer. I mean, it's probably going to take most of the week just to get all 6 of these done. But I think it's going to look better and I know it's going to be stronger if I do that on each board. So that's the last board glued up. So we'll let that sit for a day, and then we got to come back and obviously square up the ends, and then obviously probably going to flatten it first. So we'll flatten both sides and then square up the ends here, make everything nice and square, and get to sanding. All right, so we've got the boards all glued together, and this is my flattened table. I've got a video for how I built this thing. I can do almost a full, well, I can do a full 4x10 dining room table on here, and it works really, really well. It gives me the ability to do, I mean, full mantle. I can do like a 10-inch piece all the way down to almost basically a 1 inch. So it gives me the ability to do full slabs, full tables. So we're going to go ahead and start running this. First thing we're going to do is we're going to do just a little at a time because it is a little cattywampus. It's not sitting completely flat. So we're going to skim the top, blow everything off, flip it over, skim the top again. We're going to do that a couple times until we get it fairly close, and then we'll do a final pass on each side. Alright, so I started working on the final sanding, and I noticed a bunch of little holes here and there and a few spots that the epoxy didn't quite fill in. So I had to come back through and do, hopefully, the last little epoxy touch-up just to fill all the little cracks, little areas that I needed. So we're going to go ahead and start finishing sanding here. I'm going to take this top down to 1000 grit, and then that's going to be topped off with the Odie's oil. Which is a beautiful finish. It keeps basically the natural color of the wood. So quite a bit of sanding to go. Let's get at it. So the next step we're going to do is we're going to put a slight bevel on here, and I'm going to see if you can see this. So I've got this beveling bit on here, and I've got it pulled down to where it's just going to make just a slight one on here. So we're going to start pretty small and see if it's just enough. I just want to round it off just enough so it doesn't take any damage. And that's nowhere near enough, so we're going to pull some more. Oh yeah, that's perfect. I gotta come back and get this part, but yeah, that's just perfect. All right, so I got a little ahead of myself. To handle the little bit of the bow that I'm getting in the table, I'm building this 1.5 inch frame that's going to be bolted to it. I'm going to have these little tabs I'm going to put in here on all the corners, and then what we'll do is we'll bolt it to the bottom of the table and then slowly start torquing down on it until it's completely flat. But whenever you're welding something thin like this, it's really easy for it to kind of get twisted a little bit. So I've got this side leveled off, and a little spacer there you see underneath there, some washers, and I got it clamped down, trying to take the little curve out of it a little bit. So we'll see if that works. All right, so I was able to kind of take the bend out of it a little bit by doing the little clamping system. So what I've done now is I've gone through, got some angle iron, drilled some holes in, and I'm going to weld on some tabs around the outside. And then that will help me slowly kind of bring the table back into the position it's supposed to be in, hopefully. And then also it's going to give me a space to where I'll be able to attach the legs inside here. So it'll give me a good area to mount the legs as well. So we're going to go ahead and start tacking all these on. I'm doing 4 on each corner, and then some down on each of the rails. All right, so we tried to go ahead and try to use these really old, beautiful oak legs that the customer found. These are, what, 2 inches? Yeah, so they're about 2 inches here. The problem I ran into was the fact that right here at the smallest point, it's probably 3/4 of an inch, and you've got several points here, and what happened was it was twisting right here. When you put weight on it, it would twist right in this area. So not a very stable leg. So we decided to go from the 2 inch to a 3.5 inch right here. A little beefier. I wish we could have found maybe a 3 inch, but this is what we found in the shape that they wanted. And I mean, it's a very nice piece. They're handmade, or I should say, machine made. By a company called, I think it's Carolina Leg, I think is where they got this from. Anyway, the good thing about this is before I was going to have to try to come up with some kind of system where their adjustability was at the top here so that we could adjust the legs and get it to where the table sat straight. Now, because of the fact that this is a full inch here, I'm going to go ahead and get some adjustable legs that kind of thread in here. That way the adjustment's going to be at the base of it so that I can mount these nice and flat. So what we've done is, I went in there, and where the corner of the table meets here, we're going to go ahead and notch out this corner here so that it just sits right on top of the corner of the frame, and then going to build a little bracket on the inside of the frame at the 90-degree area, and we're going to drill this out. We're going to go all the way through and then put a bolt, one of those furniture leg bolts, into this here, and it will go through the frame, and then we'll bolt it on, and then that should hold it right up against the frame there, nice and tight. Let's see how we fit here. And just like that. So there's a little bit of slack here on top, which is good because I wanted to make sure it was sitting flush on the bottom down here. So now we'll go ahead and pull off the frame, get it in the shop, get that little bracket here, and we'll go ahead and get that hole drilled all the way through. All right, so the last phase is going to be going to put the top coat on here. And what I'm using is pure 2C oil, 2-part, kind of hardening, kind of like an epoxy more or less. Goes on ultra thin, but it creates a really, really hard finish. My concern is the live oak, tends to kind of move on its own. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to seal it really well and try to keep that from happening. I blew it off, and as you can see, it's still got a lot of dirt on it, or dust, I should. So there is the completed project. Got the darker legs mounted on there. Everything's nice and square. It turned out really, really nice. Has a slight sheen to it, but not too much with that 2C oil. You can see how the legs got on there. Nice and snug.
Wow.
That is nice.
Oh, that is awesome.
Man.
Wow.
I didn't know how you were going to respond to the legs, but
Oh, I love it.
so they're.
So you
Wow.
darkened them.
I darkened
Yeah,
them,
I like
but
it.
once you get to look at them, you're going to notice that the light that they're antique. So like areas here, they look like they're wet, they're worn. You see how it's kind of
I
lighter.
see it. I like
And
it.
so I made it so that it looked like it was old.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I like it.
I thought it would be
Oh,
more stuff.
yeah,
I love it.
that's beautiful.
And the lines are kind of
Well,
low.
with the lines this way, it makes it look longer than just flat.
So my grandson FaceTimed me last night and said, "Papa, what are you doing?" I said, "We're having a table made out of the old Pantel barn." I said, "Yeah, we're trying to preserve some of it because we're losing it. So
Yeah.
we've already got it."
So the legs, they're little adjustable feet down there.
Okay.
And so when you get in your house, you just put a little wrench on there and you can adjust each one to where it's perfectly level.
Okay.
That way if there's any issues, You don't have to worry about it. So what we did
This
do,
is
we
what I
talked
like.
originally about using the Odie's oil.
Yeah.
Because it was moving so much, I decided to go ahead and use the Pure 2C oil, which is
Okay.
like an epoxy. It's a two-part hardener. I used it on instead, top and bottom, because
Okay.
it gives you a much harder surface and try to keep it sealed better.
Okay.
Well, you outdid yourself.
It really, when we did the black,
I gotta tell you,
You did.
this is amazing.
Yeah.
from what we started with, I really didn't know how well this was going to turn out. Now I will tell you, live oak is a nightmare to work with because of all the movement. So,
So that's
but the look
it's
is
just
just
so
like
beautiful.
you just can't get this. I cannot make another table like this. Hands down, I cannot do it. And the only reason we did was because the live oak was so old and pretty much already dried out.
Right.
It moves a little bit just because of natural in and out. But that's the only reason. Otherwise, I wouldn't have messed with the live oak that old.
Normally you wouldn't have.
I wouldn't have.
Yeah.
But those logs were weathered just right to where it made it work out. So
Wow.
what you have here is you've got
It's gorgeous.
two 8-inch pieces on the outside, and then there's four 5-inch pieces in the center. That's how it's set up. And then the frame, there are threaded inserts that go into the wood, and they're bolted in with 1/4-inch bolts.
Okay.
So
It's
theoretically,
probably pretty heavy when you get down to the whole thing.
well, I mean, you get on the other end here, we can pick it up.
Just
You're gonna
curious.
see that
Yeah, it's heavy, but
I
it's
mean,
not horrible.
it's not horrible, but you're not going to run off with it.
No.
But this is, I mean, you can hear it.
What did that end up
Solid.
being? The thickness? of
You're just a hair under 2 inches.
that?
2 inches.
Yeah, we're a little under 2 inches. Once once we got it completely flattened and everything.
My
It's
family's
just-
gonna be so
The
impressed
only,
with what
of
we
course,
did.
I'm a perfectionist, right? And so this one corner right here is still curved up ever so slight. But if I hadn't told you, you probably wouldn't have ever seen it.
It is just, I mean, Kenneth is beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was so very happy. We put it in our house, and
What a
Jeannie's
great
like,
way to preserve
"I want one of these."
family history.
So this is all the termite
Termite
holes.
damage.
Yeah, that was all the termite holes that we
But
filled up.
It gave it so much character,
Oh, yes.
doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's just, it's beautiful.